And hello, everybody, and welcome to our draft prediction show. I'm Chris Matthews. We're getting you closer to the top of our list in this year's virtual draft. Today, we're going to look over the guys whose phones may ring during what picks 11 through 20. Joining me this day is Ron Futrell. Hey, Ron, how you doing today?
Hey there, Chris. We're going to spend the next half hour or so analyzing the picks, these round one picks as projected by CBS Sports. So we got to give the disclaimer right off the top here. These are projections. Oftentimes with the draft, you can find 5 different analysts give you 5 different picks. So this is the best guess that we can come up with at this point. Okay, so if you don't like some of the picks, call Chris,
yeah.
Right? Is it Chris? Or you go
Give me a call, or Kenny, or Jack. Hey, speaking of our analysts, joining us now to talk some NFL draft football is one of the best-known names in sports betting and numbers, Kenny White. He's been a fixture in Las Vegas for years and years in the media and in the sports betting industry. Kenny is the CEO of Kenny White Sports and puts together one of the really premier college basketball, make that football magazines each and every season. Also basketball when we get around to it, but also Jack Doyles Jones, this longtime sports director from WOOD TV.
Howdy, Jack.
Great to be here with you guys again, Rob and Chris and Kenny. It was a fun show yesterday. Look forward to going through some names here again.
I do like that everybody has gone with the NFL-approved dress code here. We take a look. They send out a dress code demand to the 58 guys that are going to be in their living rooms to make sure they're dressed properly for the draft, make sure they're not wearing inappropriate stuff that doesn't comply with some of the advertisers that the NFL has. That's very important. So anyway, dress code, mandatory during this draft. I guess mandatory here today. Kenny, you got the tie and you got the nice looking sports book look behind you.
I went with the silver and black today because I know we have the Raiders twice, and they're the Las Vegas Raiders. I can't wait. We finally have professional football here in the Valley.
Hey, well, let's start it off. The Jacksonville Jags coming in with the 20th pick. This year's draft, CBS has Yetur Gross-Matos of Penn State going right there, Ron.
Yeah, if you're looking for a great edge rusher, this may be the best guy available at this point. A big guy who really looks the part out there, strong, fast, can be destructive to offensive linemen, and that's what you want. Gross-Matos, number 99, is top 10 all-time at Penn State for tackles for a loss. Tough, active defensive lineman, wears a size 18 shoe. I guess if we're talking shoe size and hand size for this draft, he's a size 18 shoe. Guys, what do you think? Let's go. Kenny, you first. What do you think of this big guy from Penn State?
Yeah, I like him a lot. As you said, his skills are perfect for an edge rusher in the NFL. Long arms and the combination of his size with his athletic ability, his speed, quick first step. He's a strong guy, very, very smart, too. So he would go under the total, the Las Vegas betting total, or the worldwide right now. 26.5 is his over and under. So he would definitely go well under that number. I couldn't fight it. He's got great speed. 4.67, 40 off that defensive end for a guy that big is impressive. Now, if Javon Kinlaw was available, I would go with Kinlaw first for that, but I think Jacksonville needs a cover corner, and I think Christian Fulton from LSU will be available at the number 20 spot. I think that's who they'll go with instead of Gross-Matos.
Jack, what do you think of this guy? They say that if his power and skill catches up with his athleticism, this guy could be a force in the NFL.
Well, he was a force in the Big Ten, 2-time first-team All-Big Ten performer, 17 sacks the last 2 years. So, yeah, he'd be a guy you want to add to your defensive front. And I will deliver the first groaner of the day. Whoever has to replace him at Penn State has some very big shoes to fill.
Yes, the size 18s, indeed. Okay, the Las Vegas Raiders have a couple of picks in the first round of the draft, number 12 and number 19. They need help at defensive back and wide receiver, but there is some thought, that this is a little bit crazy, but there is some thought they could go with Utah State quarterback Jordan Love. That would make the quarterback room pretty crowded with the Raiders, Chris. If they went there could be trades involved, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting here. You got Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota already there. Raiders management have been talking with Love about his possibilities. Of course, Utah State, big guy, 6'4", had great touch downfield, can throw the ball anywhere, everywhere. Had a terrific 2018 season. Fell off a bit in 2019 with the Aggies, but still a lot of teams looking at Jordan Love. There is a strong draft for quarterbacks here, and Love is one of those guys. Hey, only Utah State offered him a scholarship coming out of Bakersfield, California. His throw is said to be kind of a looping windup, but Randall Cunningham kind of had a looping windup also. Hey, if all goes in the first round, if this guy goes in the first round, he would be the third Aggie to be taken in the first round ever. The other two, Phil Olsen back in 1970, and then MacArthur Lane, and we're going way back, Kenny, to 1968. What do you think of this guy?
You know, he reminds me a lot of Marcus Mariota, which the Raiders have. So the Raiders have two quarterbacks. Very surprised to see this, that CBS would think the Raiders would go with a quarterback. And a couple things you mentioned about Love. He's a very athletic player. He does have a cannon for an arm. The question mark is his release. He has a very slow release because of that long arm, and that sometimes telegraphs passes. Had double-digit interceptions in 6 games and had 3 pick-sixes last year. Now, the one thing Love had against him, 2 things: a coaching change. Matt Wells left, Anderson came back. They did lose a lot of guys off their offensive line, so it was put on Love's shoulders to lead that team. So he tried to do too much. He tried to amazing numbers. He tried to win the Heisman Trophy, just couldn't do it out of Utah State. So he's got a great arm. My question marks are that release and also the strength of schedule experience that he's gone up against. A lot have compared his numbers to Dan Marino and the interceptions, but Dan Marino played at Pittsburgh and played a much more difficult schedule than Jordan Love played. I'm going to pass on this. I don't think the Raiders go here. I think the Raiders go with a cornerback, another cover corner or a defensive lineman in this position.
Jack, what do you think? Here's a guy that possibility of, if he's a first-round pick, he would be the third first-round pick from the Mountain West, Alex Smith, and, of course, Allen from Wyoming. So what do you think of this guy, Jordan Love?
Yeah, I think Kenny's got a great point. With the coaching change with Matt Wells going to Texas Tech was a big impact on his numbers dropping off. He did try to do too much, and that's a lot to learn when you go, when you've got a change like that, whatever that new coach brings in, terminology, system, that can be difficult for a guy to learn over the course of a summer like that. John Gruden loves to work with quarterbacks. We saw that during his days with ESPN. Right now he's got 2 guys that were starting in the NFL at some point last year already in his quarterback room. This might be a little too early for the Raiders to go and grab another quarterback to add to a team that has a lot of needs: wide receiver, cornerback, safety, and those are all positions they can really help themselves with this pick right here. I think, Kristen Fulton from LSU, Jeff Gladney, A.J. Terrell would be really good picks here, but also depending on what they do earlier, would they grab a receiver here? I was really surprised to see Jordan Love's name at this point, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Love is already gone by now with the need of some teams to get a quarterback. I think you might see a team like New England maybe trade up if Bill Belichick thinks he can work some magic with a guy that some people have compared, athletically at least and arm-wise, with Patrick Mahomes.
By the way, Jack, I want to mention real quick, you mentioned Jordan Love's name. His dad wanted to name him Michael Jordan Love before he was born. His mom said, no, we're going to name him. He put Alexander as his middle name, so his name is Jordan Alexander Love. But Michael Jordan's sort of in the news these days with that documentary or something that's going on ESPN. Yeah. So he almost was named Michael Jordan Love. So,
all right, there's a lot of pressure to put on a kid right from birth
would be, yes,
when you put that name on him.
All right, let's move now to the Dolphins. Speaking of another quarterback, back on the clock at number 18 here, with 3 picks in the first round, and this will be their second one.
Yeah, Chris, we know the Dolphins will be going for a quarterback. If they don't grab Tua with their earlier pick in the first round, they would look. I don't think Justin Herbert's going to be around at this point, but they would look for Justin Herbert out of Oregon. But hard to imagine he would be. Let's talk a little bit about Herbert. Biggest quarterback in the draft at 6'6". He may have the best arm in this draft. Very athletic guy. Very smart guy, too, by the way. A biology major at Oregon. His biology thesis, he had some of his teammates jump into ice baths to see how it affected their blood pressure. He passed the test, passed the class, and is doing real well, Chris. I like Justin Herbert as a quarterback. His size, his intellect, everything about him.
Jack, what do you think about this guy here? He's, I mean, like Ron mentioned, the big guy. Probably won't be around this late, but I like this kid.
Yeah, I like him too. I like him at 4 or 5. There's no way he's going to be here with the 18th pick in this draft. But yeah, big, athletic. The ice bath thing, I can tell you from my son, after every practice, after every game, he spent time in an ice bath. I don't think it was to check on his blood pressure.
Yeah.
It was more about, trying to get the body back to shape. It's about healing a little bit quicker with those ice baths. But, yeah, the Dolphins, 14 picks in this draft, including 3 in the first round. I think they need a little more help on offense at this point, because I think they'll already have taken care of the quarterback situation. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, if they got an offer they couldn't refuse from somebody. They also need some they need help at so many different positions. But if somehow they took a Simmons or a defensive help early in the draft, then I would think this would be more of a Jordan Love pick than a Justin Herbert pick. But I think they'll already have Herbert or Tua in their pocket by now.
You know, Kenny, it's interesting. Some people compare Justin to Carson Wentz, and then some people also say against the competition, he didn't have a lot of wow moments. What do you think of Justin?
Yeah, that is true. He didn't have a lot of wow moments. But again, another player who went through a coaching change and was in an offense that was a power run game. Oregon loved to run the football last year, and they were very successful doing it. So Jordan, again, with a different offense. But this young man, talking about him a day early, the under and over in Vegas opened at 6 under, went to 5.5 over $1.50. Now it's 5.5 flat. All the money is coming under. He's going to be picked with the 5th pick in the draft by the Dolphins or the Chargers, whoever has the 5th pick. Looking at that, it is the Dolphins. So the talk is the Dolphins really like him, so they're probably going to get him. Great size, cannon of an arm, big hands. Got the hands for a quarterback. And the most athletic thing, now a couple things that he's great at is he goes through all his progressions. For a young guy, he really can look and scan the field quickly. He's got great vision. The problem is he holds on to the ball a little too long. The other problem is he doesn't have a lot of touch. But those two negatives are very easily changed by good coaching in the NFL. This young man could be our star quarterback in the NFL for a long time. Like Jack said, there's no chance we're talking about him today. We should be talking about him tomorrow because he's going to go in the top 5.
Yeah. He will go early, certainly. Okay, maybe the same team, Miami, in that spot. But anyway, we head into the trenches now. It seems like everybody can use offensive linemen these days. Dallas has the 17th pick, one of the projections. Josh Jones from Houston. Chris?
Yeah, Josh Jones, I'll tell you what, this guy is huge. Heavyweight, 6'5", nearly 320, very athletic for his size. He will make an impact wherever he goes. He's one of those intriguing players, a lot of room to improve, quick out of his stance, big, long frame. Guys, what do you think? Hey, Jack, this guy right here has so much, like you mentioned, intrigue, opportunities to improve. He could make an impact.
Absolutely, and the Dallas Cowboys love good offensive linemen. And, they lost Travis Frederick. He retired this offseason, kind of a surprise there. So I think they're going to build on one of the lines here, either the offensive line or the defensive line. And it may depend on which offensive lineman's available to them that helps them make this pick. But yeah, he's a big boy. He can play that position. The question there, how the level of competition he played at Houston, it was pretty good, but it wasn't SEC good. It wasn't Big Ten good. So you got to look at that tape and look at his footwork and look at his handwork, and then you make that decision. But I really think with the big questions the Cowboys have on the defensive line, Gregory, will he be able to play? Same thing with Alden Smith. Will he be able to play? Because will they be reinstated? I think this is more of a defensive line pick for the Dallas Cowboys. And
Kenny, your thoughts on the big guy from Houston?
Yeah, he is a really good player, Josh Jones. The under and over, Vegas number's 27.5, so he'd go well under here. I think the 27.5 is right where Josh Jones will go. He's got really good footwork. The question marks on him is maybe his strength and his speed, but 40 dash time. Offensive linemen really don't have to run 40 yards very, very rarely, so that was a little slow. But his strength is there. He's got good technique. Jack brings up a good point. The competition he was up against wasn't one of the Power 5 conferences, so I think he could slip a little bit. for Dallas. Jack brought it up. They need an edge rusher. They lost Robert Quinn and Byron Jones. They need somebody to rush the passer, or they need a good cover corner. I think C.J. Henderson from Florida would be a perfect pick for the Cowboys right here. But Jack also brought up, losing Travis Frederick off the offensive line. They need a center. Cesar Ruiz, this might be a little early for him to go, but he'd be a great fit in the Cowboys' offensive line.
All right, now let's move to the Atlanta Falcons with the 16th pick. This is a team with a strong quarterback. Of course, they got Matt Ryan, but he's got to have some guys to throw the football to. And how about Henry Ruggs III, Ron?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's around this long. One of the top 3 wide receivers in this draft. Ruggs is indeed a great one. The fastest runner at this year's combine ran a 4.27 40-yard dash. In fact, that's one of the fastest in the history of the combine. One of the top 5 numbers there. Almost nothing this guy can't do. Julio Jones, you look at him at Atlanta, he's 31 years old, so he's not done yet, but Ruggs would be a great compliment to Jones and Atlanta. Kenny White, jump in here on what do you think, Henry Ruggs III?
Yeah, I love Henry Ruggs. Obviously, what's not to like? He's 6 foot 190, so he's got good size. He can play the slot. He can play the X receiver. He can play any of the wide receiver spots. And that speed is so impressive. We've seen the Kansas City Chiefs with players that run 4.2, 4.3 40s that have been huge playmakers. So Ruggs is going to be a valuable commodity. Obviously, there's 3 wide receivers that everyone's looking at, and it's Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb and Ruggs' teammate Jerry Jeudy. So one of those 3, I think it's a coin flip who goes first. I guess Atlanta would love to have a guy like this. The one thing about Ruggs, 2 things about Ruggs. Talk about hand size, 10 1/8, big hands for a wide receiver. For a guy who's 6 foot, he's got big hands. Those hands are really soft. He's able to catch balls that are erratically thrown. You don't have to throw it right to this guy to make the catch. He's going to catch it if you put it in the area. So with that speed and those skills, some compare him to Ted Ginn Jr. I say he's Ted Ginn Jr. with better route running ability and better hands.
Jack, what do you think of this guy with the big hands as a wide receiver, Ruggs III?
I love wide receivers with big hands, especially wide receivers that average 17.5 yards a catch and has that great speed. My question here, and it would be a great pickup, but they also have Calvin Ridley at receiver. Do they need a receiver at this point? That would be a great weapon to add, but I think their defensive line needs more help than their wide receiving core does. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Falcons go after a defensive lineman at this point. And their quarterback room, it might, Ryan's still got some years left, but he's 34, and his backup, Matt Schaub, is 38. So you might need to add another guy at the quarterback spot. This might be a little too early. Maybe you go after somebody 2nd, 3rd, 4th round if you think there's a diamond in the rough out there. But at some point, they're going to have to start looking at that quarterback room, too, and get a little youth in there.
All right, we're jumping to the Rocky Mountains. The Denver Broncos, 15th pick in round 1. If they look to the secondary, C.J. Henderson of Florida could still be around at this point, Chris.
Yeah, really another one of those great defensive backs in this draft. Size, no problem, 6 foot 1, has great recovery speed, and should have the speed here now to hang with these NFL wideouts. He has that NFL recovery burst, tracks well on the vertical routes, good size. Everything you hear about Henderson is about his athleticism. And Jack, let me start with you. I like this guy a lot, and we've talked about a lot of these players not being around at this point. I don't think this guy will be around at this point at 15.
No, I don't think so either. He's really been rising on a lot of draft boards that I've seen. And the talk is, is it him or Okudah as the first cornerback taken? I think it'll be Okudah because the Lions seem to really love him. But this guy, 4.39 in the 40, 37.5-inch vertical. So he's just an insane athlete, and that's what you want at that position. That's one of the needs that the Broncos have. They also need a receiver, offensive line, cornerback, linebacker, defensive line. So they've got a lot of options here, and I think they'll take the best available player at this point for them. But if he's available at that point, I think they would absolutely jump on him. I don't think he'll be there. Okay,
Kenny, where are you at with C.J. Henderson?
Yeah, this guy has taken probably some of the most under money in any of the prop bets in Las Vegas. He opened up 17.5, where his pick would be, dropped to 15.5, minus $2. People were willing to lay the minus $2. It's down to 12.5. under -$2. So if you want to go under 12.5, you got to lay $2 to win $1. So big time money on Henderson. I don't blame him. Great size, 6'1", 240. We talked about the 4.39 speed, but you know, right there, you're showing that. That's every track and field guy looking at him right now is going, oh, what bad mechanics for a guy who runs a 4.39. If he would keep his arms and elbows in, he might even be faster than that. And you know what? Jeff Okudah, same thing. Bad mechanics running in the 40. If those guys would get cleaned up, they're probably even quicker. Now, C.J. Henderson, maybe the highest IQ guy of the entire draft. Very, very intelligent football player. Fluid hips. Great change of direction. Very strong, too, for a cornerback. This guy's going to be a great pickup for somebody who gets him. But he's going to go 10, 11, or 12.
All right, let's jump now to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They come in at number 14 in round one. Perhaps an edge rusher here, K'Lavon Chaisson. Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, Chaisson would be interesting. A great defensive lineman. He's leaving LSU as a sophomore, but what else does he have to prove after they won it all last season? He's 6'3", 254, great speed, shows up in the big games. He's played in quite a few of them over the years. And what is most interesting about him is how he got on the LSU football team. He just shows up in 2017, shows up with a friend of his, didn't have cleats, had shorts on, and he sort of went out there and went through some of the drills. They offered him a scholarship that day when they saw what he's capable of. So he's got a lot of football to learn still because he's a newcomer sort of to it. I love the story of how he got on. Kenny, where are you at with Chaisson?
Yeah, great athlete, big player, big size. My question mark's arm length. Doesn't have really good arms, not really good with his hands, and that could be because of the lack of experience. He also had a torn ACL, missed his sophomore year, missed a couple games with an ankle injury last year, so maybe, who knows if he's a little injury prone. It is football. Players do get injured. I wouldn't hold that against him, but some teams may. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this spot, they need offensive line help. They need defensive line help. I don't see them going with an outside linebacker in Chaisson. And the under and over number, open 16.5, was bet up to 17.5. So I think we're looking at him going somewhere a little bit later in this draft.
You know, Jack, some people are saying that this guy is a boom or a bust type of prospect. What do you think of him?
Well, I love the fact that he's one of those high-character guys. They gave him the number 18 at LSU, which goes to a real high-character guy who does stuff on and off the field. So that tells you how much Ed Orgeron and that coaching staff thought of him. You know, coming off the injury, bounced back and was one of the better defensive players on the field for an LSU team that's just loaded with incredible defensive players all the way through. I've got Kenny was talking about, you guys were talking about getting that offer. From LSU just kind of shows up. I remember when my son Tommy was going through the recruiting process, and we went to a camp at Michigan, and it was amazing to watch as he walked into the back room there. Just the coaches, you know, they shake your hand, they grab your arm, they squeeze your shoulders, they're looking at your rear side, they're even looking at his mom and me. So it's amazing to see the evaluation process for these players. But when you get somebody that's that freakish of an athlete, coaches just drool about what they can do with him. And I think this is one of those guys that a lot of teams would really love to put in there. But yeah, maybe it's just a hair too early here, but this is a first-round pick for sure. Boom or bust, I would go more on the boom side just because of character.
Yeah, and I did like that. He goes to camp to show up with a buddy there and ends up with a scholarship. So a good story there. Now on his way to the NFL. Okay, the 49ers pick 13th, the first of their 2 picks in round 1. They need help on the offensive line. Mekhi Becton could be their pick. The big guy, really big guy from the Louisville Cardinals. This guy is Shaq-like, Shaq, with his size, speed, and what he can do agility-wise.
Yeah, you know what's really amazing about this guy? 6'7", 364 pounds, and get this, he ran the 40 in 5.1. Nimble feet, that's faster than you can run, Ron. Technique, and he's over 350 pounds. Technique, solid, a real solid here guy. Moves well for his size, 17% body fat, looking to become the third tackle from Louisville to be drafted in the first round since 1967. Kenny, this guy, I'm amazed at how this guy is so athletic, so fast. He's going to be a star in the NFL.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is a mountain to try to get around. You know, I don't know what the negatives are on him other than maybe he's too big. I don't know if he's too big for the position, which could lead to a shorter career. that could be a problem for a guy that big. But you mentioned the body fat. You know, he's for his weight at 367. That's amazing. So the speed, it shows the athleticism. The under and over was 7.5. It has been bumped up to 8.5, and now 9.5 over. So I think we're in the ballpark of where he may go, we're somewhere between 10 to 13. If he's here at number 13, I don't think the 49ers have a problem at all grabbing him. They need an offensive lineman. This would be a great fit for Shanahan's offense. Major, major pickup for the 49ers.
All right, Jack.
Yeah, it makes sense to me if he's there. Joe Staley, their starting left tackle for 14 years. He's a guy from our area here from Grand Rapids. Joe is still hasn't fully committed to playing yet. I know he was probably going to retire if they would have won that Super Bowl, but now it looks like signs are pointing toward him returning, but he's up there in age, so they're going to need a left tackle at some point. And if this guy's sitting there, you know, the reason he did drop, as Kenny was saying, and his numbers it may drop even a little bit more, was that red flag, the positive drug test from the combine. But the rules aren't quite as crazy as they used to be. If he can stay clean for a couple of months here, then that basically gets erased from his record. But you know, there's been no problems off the field with him other than this one failed test. But yeah, this is a guy, if the 49ers can get him with the 13th pick, I think they'd be all over that.
All right, now here's the first pick for the Raiders in the draft. The Raiders are the 12th pick in the opening round. No doubt they need help at linebacker. And Ron, but there's going to be a guy named Jerry Jeudy maybe there. Do they go that way?
Oh yeah, they need a wide receiver. Since all the Antonio Brown stuff didn't work out, but they need a wide receiver. Ruggs, Jeudy, or CeeDee Lamb. They can't go wrong with any one of those guys, but Jeudy, a solid route runner, has plenty of speed to go with the Raiders. He can go deep. He's a big, they have that big hole at wide receiver, so just great hands, great route running ability. The Raiders looking for that guy that Derek Carr can throw the ball to. He's a guy who can fill that spot. Kenny, what do you know about this great wide receiver out of Alabama?
Yeah, he is the best route runner in college football right now, so that's a big plus for him, and that's why he was so good at Alabama, because Tua could throw it, and he knew Jeudy would be there. We saw the size, we see the speed. The negative was he did have quite a few drops this year, so maybe the lack of focus for Jerry Jeudy was the one negative. He's definitely a first-rounder. The number says 12.5. He's going to go under. For me, and being in Las Vegas, and the Raiders are here, I want Henry Ruggs. Ruggs is 6 foot 190. Judy's 6'1", 193. One guy runs a 4.27. The other guy runs a 4.45. Give me the 4.27 guy with the same size and better hands. Ruggs will get to be the route runner Jeudy is. There's no problem with that. So the Raiders won't go wrong with either guy if they get Jeudy or Ruggs, but I'd rather have Ruggs.
All right, Jack, here's a guy that caught the eye of Deion Sanders back when he was a junior in high school. What do you think about this Jerry Jeudy?
Well, I think all he's done is perform on the biggest stage in college football in Alabama. He's been a very productive wide receiver ever since he got there. He's lived up to the hype, and how many players live up to the hype, especially that kind of hype, because he's always been pointed at as one of the best receivers in the nation, and he's played like it. So, yeah, I'd have absolutely no problem if I was a Raider fan grabbing Jerry Jeudy at that point. But as Kenny says, what do you want there? Do you want speed, game-breaking speed, or do you want a guy who's just a good, solid receiver, and like you said, one of the better route runners in the game? So that'll be a decision there, but I have no doubt in my mind that the Raiders will take a wide receiver at this point. It's just which one they covet the most that'll be on their board.
Yeah, and the Jets could take a wide out before them, so that will be interesting to see what the Jets do with that 11th pick. A team with a lot of needs. Wide receiver is at the top of their list. Andrew Thomas, a great Georgia Bulldog. Offensive lineman, though, may be the pick here, Chris.
Yeah, really, he can play both left tackle, right tackle. Started 26 games on the left side, 15 on the right. 6'5", 315. They say he's got meat hooks for hands. He'll be a starter in the NFL day one. Just a gritty player. Thomas is a guy who just kept getting better and better every year at Georgia. Best career grading profile of any tackle in the draft versus that elite competition. Boy, I just love this guy. Hey, in fact, on Twitter, this is what his Twitter handle says when you go look at it. Success becomes a reality when you find a deeper motive other than fame and fortune. Jack, what do you think about this guy, Andrew Thomas?
Well, I will tell you that typically offensive linemen are some of the most intelligent people on a football team. He's a two-time first-team All-SEC performer, so he's played at the highest level in the best conference in America. He's versatile. I like that he can play right or left tackle because you like to have those options. I think if he's there when the Jets pick, I absolutely think they'll take an offensive lineman at that point. Wouldn't be shocked if those guys are gone. There are maybe one or two best offensive line options if they go receiver because they'd like to get some help for Sam Darnold, but I think it's more important they keep Darnold standing upright than giving him another target at this point in this draft. So, yeah, if Thomas is there, I would jump on him in a heartbeat.
Yes, he does. You need to be able, as a quarterback, you need to be able to be standing upright before you throw the ball to be able to get it to one of those wideouts. So, Kenny, what do you think with an offensive lineman for the Jets here?
It would be Andrew Thomas would be a great New York Jet. He is the most accomplished player of all the offensive linemen. 41 career starts in the SEC, really the NFL minor league. So he's ready to go. He's ready to start in the NFL right away. Chris said it, day one, and there's no doubt about it. He has the size, he has the experience, the speed, the strength. He has everything you want in your blindside tackle, and as Jack mentioned, the versatility of being able to play on the right side as well. This would be a good spot for him. The betting numbers, 12.5, down to 11.5, down to 10.5. All the money is coming under on Andrew Thomas. I've heard a lot of people say, take a shot at Andrew Thomas being the first offensive lineman selected at plus $2. It definitely could happen.
He also plays the drums, by the way, a percussionist. So he would, in high school, he would wear his jersey, his football jersey, and hop up into the stands and play with the band a little bit. So multi-talented, this guy. I don't know if that helps you as an offensive lineman to be a percussionist, but he has that skill. Oh, you're rapping on top of the defensive lineman's heads. That's what you're doing, aren't you? Yeah. You're doing that.
Hey, and Ron, don't forget he plays the tambourine and piano also.
Oh, okay, all those things.
All right, guys, we wrap it up. Jack, final thoughts on today's picks?
Well, I like a lot of them. I do want to ask a question to Kenny here. I'm curious. I think every NFL draft show should have somebody like you, Kenny, who can give us the lines and see the movement. How much has betting increased on this draft maybe compared to some others because there isn't that much stuff for people to bet on? I'm curious.
Yeah, Jack, you know, it's a shame that with coronavirus and the NFL draft moving out of Vegas, this would have been set all-time records. It actually could have come close to the Super Bowl handle in Las Vegas because 3 days of betting. The only problem is betting gets shut off on Wednesday night at midnight or 9 o'clock at night. It has to be 24 hours for the draft. When they get that changed and you can take bets on the day of, then I guess it would be Super Bowl-like betting. But even with the casinos shut down, it's hard to find a place to bet other than if you had an account. But the people who do have accounts that are betting, this is what they're betting on. The guys that I'm talking to are telling me the numbers have been very, very good, and they think they'll surpass what they did last year when the casinos were actually open.
It's either bet this or the Russian ping pong, like I said yesterday, and that's hard to handicap from this far away.
Yes, it is.
All right. So, hey, well, that's our show for today. We'd like to thank, of course, you, Jack, and Kenny, and Ron also. Join us again tomorrow as we count down the top 10 projected picks. Just one day before this year's draft. Going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, and have a great day, everybody.